All right. Now we're recording. Good. Okay, seems that it works. Good. We'll start in a couple of minutes.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
you're gonna break out, but you can come back in. They don't want you to mix the thing. I'll leave one here. Okay, yeah. Okay, you're going to
I don't know, that's gonna be right. Nah, I think computer will work. You sure?
Yeah,
I thought it was-
What happened?
no, I'm gonna work it out. You try.
Oh, how? Let's see if this one works. Good. Okay. So signing sheets on both ends. Zoom working. We can't complain. Right?
No.
Also, thank you so much for joining. A friend of mine, colleague of mine from is listening to us from Switzerland.
Wow.
Yeah. So you know, I took my time earlier today to set up Zoom, and then when I got back here, like 10 minutes ago, it wasn't working. It wasn't there at all. It's like, yeah, please. It's like a curse, but it's finally there. Okay. I think we can start with the ones that are here, right? Let's see. Is it writing? I'm running out of ink, I guess. Right. No, I don't have any. Let's check out if Alyssa has an additional one. Alyssa, I think. Thank you, Alyssa. I'm recording, so this is all gonna go in the recording. Very kind of weird, but so I had to make sure that Zoom is working with me. So I guess we can start. So good afternoon, everyone. Today we are. You can still send in as I'm speaking. It's okay. We are kicking off this second season of the series of lectures intended for you guys, for our students and colleagues. And I am happy to see that I got some of our MC fellows here. And today I'm going to talk a bit about, it's not a long presentation, so don't worry. It's not going to be a lot of things to share. I wanted to go basically over the key things on endangered species, like numbers, some examples, stuff like that. So, so first of all, the definition of what endangered species are, which is a species which has been categorized as likely to become extinct. And that is a definition that was introduced back in the day by the International Union for the Conservation of Nature, based whose headquarters are based out of Switzerland, where a friend Jose is living these days. And I think based on the kind of the most recent account they did back in 2012, there was like around 3,000 species of animals and roughly 2,600 species of plants listed as endangered worldwide. You got some pictures here or endangered species. So the let me see if I can move this up. So the International Union for the Conservation of Nature is an international organization working in the field of nature conservation and sustainable use of natural resources. It is involved in data gathering and analysis, research, field projects, advocacy, and education. This is a convention that was established back in 1948 in France, and it's working ever since and growing bit by bit, increasing the number of experts associated to them. Also growing the name of species listed based on solid science. And what we got equivalent to that, although we got offices of the IUCN here in the US, and all the signing countries have offices, and here in the US there are more than one. What we got here equivalent is the ESA, Endangered Species Act, that was enacted back in 1973 under NEPA, which is a National Environmental Protection Act, which is the most important treaty or convention signed for environment here in the US. For methods can be divided into species and ecosystems. For species, it's pretty similar, right? So these are the methods that we use in order to assess the level of endangerment that species have. And as you can see, is quite similar for ecosystems. And I did my first important work after my bachelor, specialty in conservation biology, using these methods some time ago, of course. And at some point, as a consultant, I worked for the IUCN doing assessments of the sort they do, and we were able to list 22 species, to include 22 species into the global red list for Central America, which was, and this is basically what you get if you check the website, the IUCN website. This is basically where you get pictures of the different species, and you get a strip like that with the category is given to a species. This is the one you propose. You submit information, field information or information collected from experts, and they make the final decision as to where to put it, right? In these different levels, categories that we already saw, that we saw earlier. So going down to our topic today, in our state, based on the most recent list, although from what I know is that you have issued another additional list. This is the one that was issued back in 2016. I'm told that is done every 3 years. So there should be at least the one for 2019 is not there because I checked. And there is neither the one for 2022. This is if it is every 3 years. But based on that one, we got 146 species listed. And under these categories, these categories are the ones that I used here in the US, the one in the first column back there. And I wanted to show you the different taxonomic groups that we got information for. We got for fish, amphibians, reptiles, birds, mammals, invertebrates, and the total, right? As you can see, the groups that we know better are the ones that have more species represented, like birds and mammals, the ones that we saw around usually. Not many, although, I mean, if you consider the amount of species of invertebrates described compared to this total, it's not much. Because we're talking about, only for insects, we're talking about over 1 million species. So imagine, right? So, following on, the most, or if you will, the flagship endangered species here in the state is the red wolf. As a matter of fact, they are not living red wolves in natural ecosystems anymore, because there was a lot of pressure on them. I think not as much as the gray wolf had back in the day, but it seems that at least for the state, it's already extinct. So, but let's say the good news is that some specimens have been collected and they're being raised in captivity. So maybe, although that would be like a pretty low gene pool to work with, right? So I don't know if this species is gonna eventually be able to survive, to make it as a species. One news that makes me sad to share, is that the gray wolf, a related species belonging in the same genus, was recently removed from the red list. The story of the gray wolf is certainly sad. It was hunted by the thousands at the beginning of the 20th century. And then at some point, the US government realized that it was like a massive hunt down and massacre. And then they stopped the killing, and then they put it into a red list. And 3 years ago, in his final week in office, President Trump, for some reason, of course, following pressures from, basically farmers, remove the gray wolf from the list, and that makes the species vulnerable, because people may want to hunt it down, and they do, and they can do it without any sort of consequence. They don't have to pay a fine or any other thing if it's not listed in under the red list. So some examples local are, among the 146 species that you saw the name before, these ones. These are usually species that are represented in a single point. For example, this mouse here on the left, it's only present in a beach near the beautiful city of San Agustin, kind of in the middle of the peninsula. And this butterfly here is down at the Keys. If you read things about this butterfly, for example, you'll see that how difficult it is for an animal like this to continue living, because it is exposed not only to human caused threats, but also to hurricanes. Imagine these kind of weak animals when they have to face the strong winds of a hurricane. And in the event that human pressures stop, hurricanes won't. So I don't know what's going to happen to this butterfly, among other species like this. So this other species here is an endemic to the state. It's also present in a single key, down at the Keys, the Florida Keys. And it's so friendly that it dies because of it. Because when it sees humans, it goes see them, and then it gets run over by cars. And it's difficult to prevent, because it's a friendly animal. And well, the authorities try to prevent that, but it's difficult. In that case, it's kind of caused by the animal that gets closer and closer to humans. And this snake here that looks like kind of scary is not venomous. Is often confused with rattlesnakes, and consequently is hunted, is killed by people thinking it's a rattlesnake. It's not. So it has a different color. Let me remove this here. It has a different color. It's bluish, dark bluish. And there is next to a rattlesnake over there. And it is able to withstand many bites, so a lot of venom from rattlesnakes. So you can even use it as a way to get anti-venom, anti-serum. Picture. So major threats to our endangered species are basically invasive. I think this is the most important cause of threatening. Habitat fragmentation, which is everywhere and is man-caused, and climate change. And I would like to cite some words from James Smart, director of the biodiversity group at the IUCN in Switzerland, based out of Switzerland. So, who said that invasive species are sinister and significant threat to the biodiversity and ecosystem services of this planet, causing serious harm to human health and development. And check out, compare the number of species, the number of endangered, 146 in case you don't remember, with the number of species cited for the state, as invasive. We're talking about over 400 species of fish, other animals, and also plants that are invasive to the state, due to which we lose millions of dollars, because of the damage they make. I was earlier visiting HR, trying to fix up some issues related to our MC grant, and we saw iguanas around. Iguanas are not aggressive. They look like it, but they are not. They're certainly not aggressive, but they dig tunnels on the ground sometimes. And sometimes those networks of tunnels may provoke a building to collapse and get broken, because this is the way they live. And these species are Central American. And let me tell you, they're endangered in the place they live, the natural place they live. So it's crazy. And how do we get these visitors in? So it's usually yes, I think it's usually species that are sold as pets and later released into the wild, and or were introduced for some reason like trade, right? Although the U.S. authorities take a lot of care with that, they have people inspecting the cargo of ships and planes, but it's difficult to prevent that. And sometimes they make a mess on local ecosystem, devastating crops like for example, the African giant snail, which is like this size, and or terrorizing local species and people like the python. Pythons, when they are sold, they're usually small, like less than a meter in length, and people seem to enjoy having a python because they don't know how big they get, and they get really big, right? And then when they get big, instead of making a phone call to the county for people to come over and pick them up, they just go out to the Everglades that is nearby, and they release it to the Everglades. And it took the U.S. government a lot of time to ban the selling of these guys as pets. So it was actually done by President Obama back in 2016. It was super late, and then after that, it took them a while to start implementing programs to try to control it. And after years, they finally using people to try to hunt it down, and also the science together with it. I mean, people like me, let's say biologists, that have gotten involved and tried to do like they'll try to collect animals, put them transmitters in them to be able to follow. And what they are doing basically is to using males to try to locate females, which are the ones that carry the eggs. And that way they have been controlling more or less, but the number is so high that it's pretty difficult to get that particular species under control. Not to say the other one, the snail and some others. I got some pictures for you to see what I'm talking about. So endangered species are also highly affected by climate change. So we need to try to urgently design measures to adapt to this increasing threat. So here you have the python, the African giant snail on the right, and this lizard that certainly is not an iguana. This one is aggressive, and it's a carnivore. It came from South America, and this one is dangerous. The Tegus lizard. Here you got the iguana on the left, and one that is also a nightmare, the lionfish. Lionfish came from the north, first from the west, then got here to the north, so it's able to tolerate cold waters, hot waters, whatever type of bottom of the sea, and the bad part of it is not only that it eats everything as most invasive species, but that also has venomous glands connected to the spines on the dorsal part of the body. So if you walk into a beach, you know, thinking that you're gonna have a good time, and you step on it, you're gonna have a pretty bad time. If you're not taken quickly to the hospital, you may die. It's a pretty strong venom. Also, from what I'm told, I haven't eaten it yet. I can try because I'm a biologist and I like to try out these type of things. And but if you do it and you don't do it carefully, you break off one of the venom glands that he's got, you may also die. You know, if you take in the venom. So everyone has these species. I think all countries of the region have declared war to this guy because he's a bad neighbor to have. So, and these, I'm sure you've seen around, this small lizard here. This is one of the not so bad visitors. You know, the curly tail is all around. Whatever door you open, you're gonna see him, right? But this is not that. I mean, the consequences of having it are not that bad. And this is a species of snail that is not as bad either as the African snail. So I wanted to give you this picture, enough for you to know what I'm talking about when I said that these guys get big, the pythons. Check out. It's not that all of them are gonna get this big, but they can get this big. So, and another bit of information is that they are also, like the other one that I mentioned, endangered in their own country of origin, because they have been so hunted down, so much hunted down in order to be sold as pets, that this is what happened. So I think I have to briefly mention that let's say the paradise for our endangered species are our preserves or protected areas. We got 11 in the region, not in the whole state. 3 of them are national parks. National parks are the highest category in terms of conservation in all countries, I think. And this is what you're looking at, is a portion of an alligator, which is also an endangered listed species. One thing that people like me involved in teaching are encouraged to do is to do project on endangered species. You can even find papers by colleagues. I used to do that one. I used to do a project like this back in the day. I started doing this like 12 years ago, I think. And until the moment that I replaced that project with the one that I'm currently doing, not all the time, but sometimes, on the production of biomass and carbon fixation by trees. And these are the results of one of these projects. So there was a student of mine that wanted extra credits, and she put together all the information for like 2 years of projects. It was kind of dispersed and stuff. So I wanted to see which were the groups with a higher frequency of species. The procedure was that I posted basically the information for my students to pick whatever they wanted. They have to pick one species out of the list that I mentioned earlier. And this is what I got over, like, I think it was 3 years, 3 courses, right? Because I used to teach this class like a couple of times a year. And as you can see, mammals got the palm, as they say, because it's what people know more, you know, mammals, then birds, reptiles, and so on. And this is the graph with those numbers for you to see more clearly. And then I wanted to know which species were picked in a higher frequency as well. And this is what I got. So the one that got the highest frequency was the Florida panther, which is kind of as endangered as the red wolf, because there are like 200 and some individuals remaining out there, which is not much. And the point for the panther is that he needs a lot of territory to wander if it wants to reproduce. It needs that much land, and it's difficult to find that in a place like this, you know, with newer and newer developments that come up, that appear every year. And let me see what I got next. So what do we do to help? It's difficult. It's difficult. There are some regulations in place. I mentioned the two key ones, the global one, the local one. There are some people, some nonprofits working on different things. So we got the Audubon Society working on birds. We got some people working on the bonneted bat. So we got some people working with the manatees, and they're all doing good work, but it's difficult to get funds to do that type of work. And it's never enough because there are so many things that we need. So we got basically what we need, and except for monitoring. Monitoring is an activity that is not usually paid, and if it's paid at all, it's not well paid. And we need to know that. We need to do monitoring to know how populations of endangered species are thriving, if they are, right? So, but this is basically my final remark. You got here, this is being recorded so you can have access to it. I got some key sources here, not all, right? Like CITES, a document by the EPA, IUCN, basically website, the Florida Wildlife Conservation 2017, and a couple of other documents, one from UNESCO as well. And this is what I have for today. As I said, it was going to be short. It was going to be like 20, 25 minutes, which I did. And if you want to post questions or comments, I'd be happy to answer if I know the answer for questions. Thank you. Thank you, guys. Thank you.
I have a question.
Go ahead, Jason.
You said there was 146 in 2016. Do you think it has been going up or down?
Well, it's a good question. I have to say that unfortunately, it's at least one digit down, because I mean one number down, because if they removed the gray wolf, then it would be 145, right? So I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm looking forward to see the new list, because I expect to see more species included. Easy, Jason, believe me, is the only way to not to prevent, but to at least stop that, make it slower at least, you know, because people think twice before messing up with endangered species, because they know that there are big fines involved or even jail. So some species, you know, for example, the lobster that we eat, you know, if you collect lobster undersized, you can get huge fines. You can get even if you got a boat, you can get the boat taken away from you for doing so. So it's that serious. And if you mess up with some endangered species, that may happen to you. So people know, right? And if you don't know, I mean, if, for example, you're caught doing this, you get a warning. Don't do that anymore. And then if you do it again, because your name is put on you get a record. Although you don't get a fine, if it is like the first time, you get a record. And then, but once I forgot when I said I gave you the news of the gray wolves being removed from the list. Right after, like couple of months after, I got a news of 60 gray wolves that were killed in the West Coast. Because once there's no protection, you can do whatever. Yes.
So you were saying that directly President Obama was the one who declared, or does he actually have to write like a letter to?
Well, this case was President Trump.
Okay.
I think it's not president's fault. You know, they work on the pressures. You know, in this case, I think a lot of farmers were putting pressure because the point is that gray wolves get into the properties of farmers and eat the cattle and other animals. So you don't want that. But the way to do it is not to take them off the list. You know, there should be other mechanisms in place to prevent that, not that specifically. Because as I said, once you do that, this happens. And what I said about President Obama is the one who banned the python.
Oh, okay.
But it was late. You know, that should have been done like, I don't know, at least 6 years before. You know, because now the population of pythons, and the point is, you know, I saw one some years ago next to me. I was standing next to it, you know, with a grass like this tall, and I wasn't able to see it. It camouflages so very well with the grass, you know. So imagine people go out to hunt it down because they are paying for it. They are paying to people to hunt it down, but they go out at night. Imagine how difficult it is to spot one at night. Right?
So do you think it would be possible, instead of just putting the gray wolf on or off the endangered list, to maybe propose like a hunting season to at least allow them to populate during the periods?
I guess something like that has to be done.
You know, kind of like deer hunting and all that.
Yeah, I think that would be like a smart thing to do, not just to leave it, to let it just unprotected out there. You know, I think that would be, you know, like an intermediate step to take. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So is there a question that you want to pose on your end?
So I can make questions.
You good?
Can you hear me?
Jose is joining from Switzerland.
So how's the sound? Can you
It's
hear
late.
me?
It's late for him. Yeah, I know. He's always, you know, pending on things like this. Okay, so if there are not other things or comments, I'm gonna stop the recording. Let me see what it is done. Pause. Is it here? Is it on off? See. Stop recording.